Oh,
Hello and welcome. So wonderful to have you here in Anchored in Love with RIMPAGE. And today we have one friend on the call with us here whose mission is so big that we have singled him out to share and talk about what one human life can really contribute in this lifetime. That is the subject that always interested both of us. Am I right in saying that, Patrick?
absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So as we figure this out for ourselves, we are fascinated to meet people like Antwaun, who has fast become a friend, and his mission is really so big that every single time I put that timer on in 2 minutes, I felt sorry because I wanted to hear more. So today we have that opportunity. So welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me again.
Excellent. Oh, it's always our joy to have you here. So let's start with describing to those of us who might be watching us for the first time. You can tell us in your own words what is this mission of your life, because there is this definite sense and feeling that you have a purpose that you're fulfilling here. How did that even come about?
Ooh, it's always a great question. I always try to find different ways to describe it because I don't want to sound like a recording. Because
Yes.
when you find something you're passionate about, you can talk about it in so many different ways, and I think that's where it resonates with people. And I always say that my father was really the inspiration for me, and primarily because he was not my biological father, but he was the man that made me the man that I am today, and the man that gives back to young people and try to inspire and motivate them to have the best lives that they can and be the best versions of themselves. My father served 30 years in the Marine Corps, but he didn't raise us as Marines. He raised us as young men and provided the values and morals that I now try to share with the next generation of young people.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that my wife and I were not able to have children of our own, I took that. It took me a few years to kind of realize it, but I felt like that was a blessing because God was telling me and my wife, because I didn't bless you with children of your own, because I blessed you with a gift, and that gift is to reach and impact more people, because you can put your time, energy, and effort into a lot more kids than just a couple of kids that I would have blessed you with. So I've taken that to heart. And I started my nonprofit in honor of my father. And it's a reminder of me every day that I'm not just impacting lives, but I'm also honoring him and thanking him for what he provided my brothers and I.
Mm. What a beautiful way to look at things in life. And perhaps there is here first the gold nugget that we can leave the viewers with. If something has happened in our life to show us that wasn't the path that we thought, how the path will unfold, it's perhaps there is more that we are asked to do, not less.
Oh,
in
100%.
that realization. Yes, that really is fascinating. So tell us, how do you even go about creating a nonprofit organization? Because that seems like a daunting task. I know building a business is daunting, but then building a nonprofit, that must be a handful of things to consider.
There are a lot. And I think the story of how I started mine is a very interesting one. And I actually haven't shared a lot. And if you allow me, I'd love to share it with you.
Please, yes.
It actually started with a conversation I had with a gentleman here who happened to be the founder of the Food Line grocery store chain here in North Carolina. And he and I were having a conversation one day, having lunch one day. And I was telling him I had started working with kids and I wanted to really turn it into a business. And I wasn't sure if it was going to be a for-profit or nonprofit. And during this conversation, I had 7 pages of financials, just kind of projecting how I would do it. And he asked if he could take it. And I'm like, yeah, sure. We got back together 2 weeks later, and he had condensed those 7 pages into 1 page, which he had handwritten. I had done mine in an Excel spreadsheet. He had done it in handwritten, and he slid it over to me. He goes, this is what you need. And I would recommend you do it as a nonprofit, because based on what you shared with me, I love the concept And I think it'd be more impactful as a nonprofit. 3 weeks later, a check shows up in the mail. He had written a check for me, and that check is what allowed me the opportunity to file for my 501c3 nonprofit status and to start the nonprofit. So he really was a big part of it. Ralph Kettner's his name. He was 94 when we met. Obviously he's since passed, but he was a huge inspiration for me, and that made the process easier, as for many it's probably a little bit more daunting task.
Fantastic. Patrick, no doubt you have some questions.
Yes. First of all, that's an amazing story. And Katerina and I often talk about how when you're in alignment with your purpose, things are not hard like we expect them to be. Like he took 7 pages, and on his own initiative, he condensed it for you into 1 page.
Right.
And then he gave you the check to start it. And, and I was going to ask,
Yeah.
how hard was that?
Yeah, we don't often pay attention. Yes.
Right. And I never, it was never, hey, will you help me? I never asked if you would help. It just, he saw the vision, and he actually helped me clarify the vision. And I think it's to your point, Patrick and Katerina, you just never know. Sometimes people hear your mission, they feel your mission. And I think that's what he did. He felt what he knew. I was very intentional with my purpose, and that made it easier for him to make that determination to support that.
Beautiful. Sorry, Patrick, you were going there with the question.
No, it was just that observation. But what I did want to ask is for that. This is how we're going to be doing our networking meeting going forward, where we have so many people, and we can't possibly give all of them space on that group call.
Yes.
And so a lot of times people will start talking about their business and what they do, and then I want to hear more, but there isn't time to hear more. So we're going to have that like once a week or once a month, but then we're going to interview people like you and give you all the time you need to tell everything you do. And so I would like to ask that question. For those who haven't met you yet, would you please just tell us all the things you do?
Yes.
Oh boy. Okay. So as we were, okay, how long do we have? No. So we, obviously my nonprofit is a big part of what I do. And actually, the other things that I do are actually as a result of the COVID pandemic a few years ago, when it shut down our nonprofit, and it allowed me opportunity to reflect on how I could extend and create more opportunities to impact young people without the athletic component. So I started an online mentoring academy. It's called Coach T's Corner. And it's designed to educate, motivate, support the next generation of leaders through the soft skills development that they need to be successful both now and into the future. And also wrote a book, The Ultimate Guide to Success for Preteens and Teens, which outlines my 3-step model of simplicity, effort, and attitude, which I think are the 3 keys for young people to be successful. I host a podcast, Developing Tomorrow's Leaders, which is where I interview people like yourselves and others that have the ability, willingness, and capabilities to impact young people. And then in January, I started a second podcast with a fellow youth leadership and empowerment coach, Keith Senzer. We have a podcast called Teen Speak, where we interview teenagers from around the world, and they share their challenges and strategies that they use to overcome those challenges. And most recently, I'm in the process of converting my book into an online academy, which is through my website. It's called the Sea of Success Academy, where I am developing courses in 3 formats: video, audio, and ebook versions of each one of the chapters in my book. And it's an opportunity for kids to learn on their own. It's not a pass fail. It's just an opportunity for them to grow and develop as young people. And then I am also still a basketball coach, still coaching basketball I'm in my 38th year of coaching basketball. And I think that's everything that I do. Yes.
Is that all that you do? Because
wait a minute.
Oh, yeah, there's one other thing that I do that actually I'm really excited to talk about. I'm actually the first promoter for RIMPAGE, which is an amazing affiliation that I had the opportunity to create with Patrick and Katerina. And actually, I'm also going to brag a little bit, because the most efficient player in RIMPAGE happens to be a young man by the name of Brady Valance. who I have the pleasure of training. And I will say for the record, tomorrow he has a 2-hour workout with me tomorrow.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So we can expect Brady to maintain that efficiency level.
Yes, he's going to hold on to it.
It has made some waves. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. So, but yeah, so that's a great, and this is what's interesting. This the RIMPAGE association with JLT Fieldhouse is huge because it aligns so closely with RIMPAGE. It's about providing opportunities for kids to create their own path of success and at their own pace without having to ask for permission. They give themselves permission to participate, and that's where Brady's a perfect example. He's gotten his opportunity and he's running with it. He realizes there's opportunities for him. And I think that's what's so great about RIMPAGE as well.
Yes. I think that's the key component. Somebody realizing what an opportunity I have here with RIMPAGE and running with it. That's a really great point. So much that you do there that is really a good work in this world. I want to ask you, what is the feeling inside one who does something that they're aligned with, something that is in alignment with your purpose, something that is building a legacy while you are still here living and breathing? Consciously,
what's the first
legacy. How does that feel? How does it feel to work and live your passion rather than, working for someone else's dream, which is the story we hear so many times?
There's actually two parts. There's a good and a not so good if you really look at it. The good part is, you're providing something positive in the lives of young people every day because you get the opportunity. The downside is there's not enough of me to go around to do more of it. That's the part that gets me, because you want to do as much as you possibly can. And the ones that you really connect with, that they're the ones that fuel you to want to be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 versions of yourself so that you can do more, because they see the value. And the best example I can give you that, and why I say that, 2 weeks ago, there are 3 young ladies that I trained, and these 3 ladies won state titles 3 weeks ago. 2 play together and 1 plays for another high school, and they won on the same day. And the next week, they're back in the gym with me working. And I'm saying to myself, these girls could be sitting around, just walking around bragging about, hey, we won a state title and this, that, and everything. They're back in the gym wanting to get better because they want to do it again. And one of the young ladies, by the way, this is her 2nd championship in 3 years. So, she's truly determined. These are the kind of young people that I love to work with. And I know that they're inspiring another group of people. And then that snowball effect just takes over.
Beautiful.
I'll say when we interviewed Brady, we were so impressed with him. You could tell someone has been working with this young man. Someone has been guiding him. You could tell by his answers. Yes. I mean, he was straight as an arrow. He knew what he wanted. He had all the right answers. And I even asked him at one point, did your father play basketball? It seems like you've been around the game quite a bit. That's no doubt the JLT Fieldhouse influence on him. And he also seems like a great person to work with.
Oh, he's a phenomenal young man. And you make a great point, Patrick, about Brady, because working with him and knowing how he's worked through his frustrations, he's had a lot of adversity when it comes to this game. But he and I have worked long and hard over that process. Hey, listen, these frustrations are there for a reason. They're either for you to step up and face those adversities, or to, go into and play the victim. We want to play the victor. So that's what been our approach. And for him, it's really been about a mental transformation more so than an athletic transformation. And that's what you two heard in the interview, was the mental transformation, because there was a lot more frustration from him in the early on. We'd have conversations like the one you two had, but he has grown so much. And for him to only be a freshman in high school, you can only imagine what's going to transpire in the next 3 years for him playing in high school.
Yes, you feel it. It's really unusual because I mean, in the course of my work, I have worked with teenagers, and I feel that when they feel that they have a sense of purpose to fulfill, and when they're left to choose their own purpose, they're more focused, and they can put their energy where their heart is. They can really more easily aligned with where they should be going on their own path in life. And when we as young people, we all felt this as growing up, when we felt that someone else's influence was heavily weighing on us to make choice in life, you know, to pick the subject that we want to study, to go to the university, to sort of lead us on the career path that is predetermined or chosen, just because somebody, an adult in our life, told us this is what you should be doing. So it was so freeing listening to this young man really have his own focus about himself and about where he wanted to take, because we talked about specifically about his basketball game, but I did ask him a couple of questions wider, you know, as in context of life, and he was considering life. He wasn't just talking from the basketball angle, which was impressive. And as Patrick said, that has to be a reflection of working with someone who is supporting his own growth rather than instilling something that you think is the best thing.
Oh, you're absolutely right. And talking about every facet of your life and how you can, I use basketball as that platform to teach life skills, and you just described what he took from those conversations, and he's gotten to the point now where he's growing. I didn't hear it in the interview because I could tell he was a little nervous at first, but then I think he got to thinking about things. But the conversations we have now, he's more open about the responses, and he thinks about them from a futuristic standpoint as opposed to a right now perspective.
Yeah, it's like a long-term plan that he is on. It's really beautiful to live life from that standpoint. There are so many questions I love asking and hearing about in working with young people. And you have outlined some of the reasons that for you choosing to work with young people, but no doubt that you had that confirmed to be the right choice. Does it feels different when you're empowering the next generation, doesn't it?
Oh, it really does. And I think you made a great point too, Katerina, is, you know, about me deciding once you make the decision to do it, it truly does guide you in everything that you do. You don't have to look for what am I going to do. It's, you know, you get into and you're like, what else am I going to do? Not what I have to do. What am I going to do? And that's kind of how I approach it. And I'll say this because hopefully some kids will hear this. I don't think kids also realize how much they impact me as a coach and influence me as a coach. It's not all about the impact I have on them. It's the impact they have on me. And that's what inspires me to keep doing what I do, because they inspire me to do what I do because I see that I'm providing some value to them.
Really.
Do you have a favorite success story? You probably have a handful.
Oh, I was thinking of one, and I would love to share this one because it's actually in my book, and this happened just a couple of years ago, 3 years ago. There's a young man that was in part of a JLT field house. He started when he was in the 4th grade. So he was in our beginner group, 1st to 4th grade. And he was so insecure. He was always asking questions, never feeling confident. Every time he'd do something, he'd go, did I do that right? Did I do that right? And I'm like, yeah, you did it right. Even if I said he did it right, each time he'd do it, he'd look back for affirmation. Hey, you know, did I do a good job? And I kept telling him, say, you're doing a great job. You got to have more confidence in yourself. You got to do it. So we fast forward 3 years. Now he's playing for me as an 7th grader. So he's not getting a lot of court time because he's still learning. So his 8th grade year, which happened to be the COVID season, we call it the COVID season, the mask season, we were able to play. And he was probably number 8 on the number 3 off the bench. He wasn't a starter, but he's number 3 off the bench. As the season progressed, COVID affected our lineup. So he went from being number 8 to being in the starting lineup, and he got put in the starting lineup during the tournament. And I'm saying to myself, I'm like, this is his opportunity to show. And I never had any doubt, because the fact that I was put him in that situation, I was hoping he'd go, coach is putting me in this situation. He must trust me, must trust me. This young man was the reason we won the conference championship. He hit a 3-pointer at the buzzer at the end of the first quarter. He hit a 3-pointer to start the second half. We won by 3. He made the all-tournament team. And when I was congratulating all the kids and stuff, he told me, and I quote, he said, Coach, you're the only one that ever had confidence in me and believed in me, and he wanted to thank me for it. And I said, no, young man, you were the only one that didn't have confidence in yourself. I always had confidence in you, but you didn't have it in yourself. And you finally stepped up and you proved that you could. And I couldn't be prouder for him, because it was just an amazing, amazing thing to process and transformation to watch happen over 4 years.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
It's also something we often talk about within RIMPAGE circle when we have our meetings, is that we are not often in life celebrating the progress, and we're not measuring the progress, only victories, and especially in sport, and especially in group sport, to actually give recognition to someone for improving inside themselves, which in effect improve the game and actually produce the result for the whole team. And then for him to connect all the dots and say, hey, you were the inspiration behind this,
right,
to do this.
Yeah,
what a picture.
That's a great point. And I think that's why it's so important that I do this too, because I think we'll all agree the game of basketball, and in sports in general, but we'll say specifically basketball, has changed so much. It's become so individualized in a team concept that it's having a negative impact on players. And this is why RIMPAGE is so important, because it takes the team component out and it puts the responsibility and accountability on the individual from beginning to end. And I think that that's why it's such a positive impact on the game, and players won't get lost in that team environment, and it gives them an opportunity to be their team on their own.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Probably you have something to add there, Patrick, or ask.
Yes, I have another question.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, if you have another story, I'd like to hear that one too. So you can be thinking of that one, because I know you have a lot of them. But the next question is, in working with children, what would you say is the secret to working with young people? Because we hear a lot of complaints about our young people today, but you seem to have a lot of success.
Oh, that's an easy one. That's an easy one. First and foremost, the most important thing is you need to connect with kids on their level. You don't come to them with an authoritative approach, because if you're going to help them, I can't help them if I don't get to their level and have them be able to convey to me what they need and what they want. And developing a rapport with them is the most important, because you find out that some kids are very straightforward. You don't need to coddle them and baby them and, kind of pull them along. Some want you to tell them right up front. But if you do that with everybody, you're going to turn some kids away, because that's not the approach they want. And I can actually have it. This happened a week ago as a perfect example. There's one of the young ladies I told you that won the state title and came back to work out. She also comes in once a week for a 90-minute workout. And this past week, she came in with her dad, and she had been working with a couple other trainers. Everybody does different things. And I always encourage kids. I teach one thing. There's certain things I don't teach. So yeah, go see other coaches and get what you want. Well, she had gone to see a coach, and the dad said that he had to apologize to his daughter because he scheduled it, and she did not like it, because the guy did not connect with her. He just starts saying, do this, do that, do this, do that. And she's like, I just want to go back to Coach T, because it's about the relationship and building a rapport. So now next week she's coming back for another 90-minute session during the week. So it's about connecting with kids, and they resonate with how you teach and the fact that you're willing to find out how they learn. And now they're starting to get more comfortable. They start asking questions, because I like the kids to be involved in their own progress, not just me telling them what they do. Yeah.
Fascinating. Did you want to add anything, Patrick? I was there because I have hundreds of things where I can take this conversation. Go ahead.
Actually, I wanted to ask you that same question, because I love your answer. And I think the two of your answers together are so great. So what would you say is the secret to working with young people?
It's seeing them, really. Taking ourselves and our expectation out of the picture and being with them, present in that moment. That is what makes a difference. And also giving them the opportunity to prove that they know what is the best for them. not telling them what is best for them to do. Of course, we come as older person in their life, older influence, whether we are a parent or a teacher or somebody like I had a group of volunteers, young volunteers from high school, which were doing art activities and some social activities in the care home where I worked with dementia sufferers. And to see them really engage and build those relationships was fabulous, without me having to assert myself as an authority, as somebody who knows better than them. As I said, I came to them, obviously I have more experience of life, so I could give them some pointers, which they appreciated. But they were allowed to build their own relationships. And guess what? I mean, given that permission to be free and to explore it, they came week after week after week after week, and to the point that then the head teacher had to come and see what was going on, why are so involved, because the care home and the high school were next door to each other all along, and this was the first time that somebody actually connected them and seen the benefits. So I would have these 98-year-old people with Zimmer frames, dancing to the tunes of young people's music. We started first with Frank Sinatra, but then as they got to know each other, we started then playing the younger people's music, and the older ones were asking them, you dance your dance, how do you dance nowadays? We want to see. It's fantastic to see those relationships build in that way. So I think when we remove that element of expectation, this has to happen like this, life surprises us, and it's beautiful to be a part of that.
When you remove the expectations, you create a space there.
Yes.
And you trust them to fill that space in the way that they think is best. That's one of the things that impressed me the most about you, Antwaun, when I first interviewed you, was the amount of trust you gave your team, especially in critical moments, because that's usually a time where the coach feels like, I have to step in, I have to do this thing to help this team get where they need to be. But your approach was different. You stepped back and gave them an opportunity to prove themselves, like you gave them the trust.
Right.
Please talk about that. How important is it to trust, to trust young people, show them that we have confidence in them?
Oh, it makes all the difference in the world. And believe it or not, it's all a process. I mean, it wasn't like I woke up like, hey, I want to do this. It's trial and error. You have to challenge yourself as a coach. I want to be a better coach. I've been doing it this way for so long. That means if you keep doing a certain way, you lose your enthusiasm, because now you're like, you're just hitting the play button, same thing. Right. Like, hey, how can I get more out of this? What if I? So I started asking questions. And as soon as I started asking questions, kids are like, oh, you care about my opinion. I'm like, okay, well, I want to start kind of sharing that opinion with you. And it really opened up a couple of years ago when one of the kids asked me during practice, they said, Coach T, why don't you have an assistant coach? I said, I do. And they said, really? I'm like, yeah, I got 13 of them. And his eyes kind of lit up. His eyes lit up. And he's like, really? And I'm like, yeah. So when I got that response, I was like, okay, I got to back this up now. So I said that wasn't just in passing. Yeah. So what I started doing was during timeouts in between quarters, I would give my little input. Hey, this is what we need to do. Keep doing this, great job, or whatever. And then I said, anybody else have anything? And it started with the guys that were sitting, that were going back on the floor. They would say, well. Then the guys behind me started sticking their hands in front of me, like, I got something. And at halftime, it started that way. Hey, what do you guys have? And it got to the point where I had to cut the kids off at halftime. Like, we got to play the second half, because they all wanted to keep adding input. And it goes to the other point I always tell kids, be in the game even when you're not in the game. And that was a perfect example. Yeah. They're not playing, but they're giving input for their teammates that are playing. And that's empowering them to have a role in the success of the team. And I realized that in itself is just a great tool for coaches to do. And no disrespect to other coaches out there, but this is something I don't think enough coaches allow their players to do, is to have input in the success of the team.
Wow. I had to write that down. I really had to stop. Oftentimes when I speak with you, I feel like taking notes. It's so wonderful to see someone so aligned with what they are doing, so plugged in. And this is what makes these interviews easy. So first of all, I want to thank you for that, because sometimes you feel like you have to pull these answers out of people. They struggle to find the story in what they do. And I think that there are examples, so many wonderful examples, like each and every story that you can tell us about each one of the kids that you worked with probably is a winning story, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. And actually, I got a text a couple of days ago. I'm still beaming about this one. One of the young ladies that's been in the program for 6 years, she did her senior project on JLT Fieldhouse. And her mom told me she's going to swing it by and let me see it. But she said she was in tears after she read it, because apparently she got a great grade on it. But the fact that she would do her project on a basketball nonprofit that, she's been in a part of, she saw value not just in the athletic part, but what the program did, and it was such an impact on her that she wanted to do her project on it. And I think that speaks volumes to the quality and the value that JLT Fieldhouse provides for kids beyond the athletic components. And she was part of another first that we started 3 years ago, which was a summer league that we started. And in the summer league, I'm the only adult, and all of the coaches are high school students, excuse me, and they're coaching younger kids in the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th and 8th grade and 9th grade. And when I first started, I was like, okay, this is an experiment that might go crazy. You got kids coaching kids, they could be totally out of control. But I honestly, there was a pride moment that a light bulb went off. It was during one of the practices. They had a split on both ends of the practice. There's one team down here, one team here, and the two coaches. And I explained to them what the expectations were, what I wanted them to teach, and so forth. And I watched them, and they were actually coaching. But not just that, I was watching younger kids' reactions, and their eyes were locked on them like I was coaching them. Mm-hmm. And I took away from them, like, I'm putting these kids in leadership roles, and they're taking it serious from the very beginning, as opposed to being overly authoritative with these younger kids, bossing them around. They weren't doing that. And it made me realize they had really taken the lessons that I had shared with them in their sessions and group sessions, and then they were just now carrying that over to teaching these younger kids. And this young lady happened to be one of those. And the kids now just always reaching out, hey, coach, can I coach this summer? Can I coach this summer? They love being in that leadership role. It also helps them to find their leadership style and their leadership role. And it is a great experience. It's a great thing to watch. And this is why, again, another reason that it's going to be pushing me. How else can I put them in a leadership role besides just the game?
Yes.
Antwaun.
Wow. I think you're proving here that we're all leaders.
Right.
We're all leaders. Right. We're all born to lead, right? And you're empowering these kids to stay with that. And just one quick question. Do you think that if we apply the same attitude when we work with adults, that we would have the same results?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, 100%. But I don't think it happens enough.
Yeah, it doesn't happen enough. I'm sorry, Patrick.
Oh, no, you're fine. I was just going to say, I had this conversation the other day with a lovely young lady who was talking about trusting your parenting. Like, this young lady wanted to go overseas. She wanted to leave the country and study English abroad. And her parents had an opportunity to express their fears. No, what if you get in trouble? And what if something happens to you? But instead, they trusted the job they did parenting her, and they allowed her to go. Katharina, can you tell us a little more about that? Yeah, since you are that young lady.
Yeah. This is the point that we were making as well. When I made life-altering decision at just as I turned 21, and I went to my parents, it was the easiest conversation ever, because in every other aspect of life, when I was considering acquiring something. There was always a question, do you really need that? What is that to serve? What's the purpose of that? So when I went with this, I thought, I'm going to just go in and ask them. I wanted to study English in England. We had no connections. This was like 5 countries, 5 borders you have to cross to come to England. So it's not physically even close to my country. And my parents, I remember us sitting at the dining room table, and the answer was unanimous. They didn't even need to confer for this. They just said, wow, we didn't see this coming, but we will back you up, because they saw that I presented a case to which they couldn't say no. And I realized in years to come, yesterday was exactly 30 years since I came to England, by the way. I didn't come with the intention to stay here, but this was something that was pulling me to come to this country, was different. My life story unfolded in a way that I didn't know back then, and nor did they. But that sense that they trusted the job they did is the point that we are trying to make here, right? If they raised doubts, it would be them sending me the message, we didn't do the job that we thought we did with you, if they didn't trust my choices and my decisions. So this is something that I would like to invite every single parent out there to consider when they're voicing their opinion to their children, to make a distinction, to say, this is what I feel it's best for you, but I will support your choices and decisions in life. Because when you parent in that way, and it's always broader than that. When you show up in life like that, as a friend, you are doing someone a service. You are doing them justice. You're giving them ability and opportunity to step into the full power of their own being. And that will always steer them in the right direction, right?
Another way Antwaun is doing that is with Teen Speak, giving those teenagers a voice.
Voice, yes.
Right. Can you tell us a story there?
Mm-hmm.
Yo, actually, it just happened Monday. I'm telling you, you guys got me the right time with a lot of stuff.
I love it.
Yeah. So we just actually 2 weeks ago, we had a young lady from England, Owen, and she had come to the States and spent a semester at school in Florida. And she's a senior now. And her story was just amazing. She spent time in Thailand as well. But Monday, we had our youngest on the show. She's in the 6th grade. She lives in California. And when you watch this episode, it'll be out in a couple weeks. You will not know that this girl's in the 6th grade. I promise you, because she is a wealth of knowledge, vision, perceptive. Now, I owe a lot of credit to her mom. Her mom is actually a youth communication coach, so you could tell her mom's been working with her. But these kids are so empowered. They're just not been given the opportunity to be empowered. And Katerina, you just described that to a T with your experience of your parents. And you're right. That's where a lot of parents are. And I hate to use the word, but it's true. This is where they're failing their kids, because they're not allowing them to make decisions. And they're not allowing them to fail in certain situations. When you think about it in sports, if your child doesn't make the basketball team, your parents can't come and go yell at the coach and go, put my son on the team because he deserves to be. And I like to defend the kids to the parents. And I love to share this example with you, because I started doing this 2 years ago. Something I did not want to do was something I was forced to do because of how parents were involved, being a little too involved in the process. Yeah. So one of the things I never talk about is playing time, because those two words mean absolutely nothing to me. Everybody on a team wants playing time. So that goes without saying. Let's make it a little bit more objective in that we want players that are going to contribute to the success of the team. Just because you wear a jersey and wear shorts and tennis shoes and you get on the court doesn't mean you're contributing to the success of the team, because you have some players that are just happy to be on a team. And I'm honest, I've coached a long time. There are some kids, they don't care if they play or not. But as long as they wear a uniform, they're happy. That's fine. Then that's what you want to do. That's fine. But as a coach, you want the most out of every player. So I challenge them. You want to contribute to the success of the team. Is what you do in practice will determine how much opportunity you get to contribute. Patrick could play 20 minutes of a game, get 2 points, 4 fouls, and 1 rebound. I can play for 4 minutes, get 12 points, 3 rebounds, 2 steals, and have an assist. Who's contributed more to the success of the team? I have in less time. So it challenges kids to do more in less time. Well, guess what? That doing more in less time increases to doing more over more time. Now, me as a coach, my challenge is, how do I get him off the floor? He's doing so well, I can't take him out. So that's a mindset shift for players. So by taking playing time out is huge. So that led to me having, some parents are wanting their kids, they should be playing. So I have a preseason meeting with parents, and I share with them, I said, the boys and I need your support, not your distraction. I'm going to explain to you what I mean by that. When your son is coming to play every game, there are 4 components to every game. And there's 4 things that he's trying to do. He's trying to please you. He's trying to please me as their coach. He's trying to please his teammates. But most importantly, he's trying to please himself. And that's hard to do when you have everybody in your ear. So if he has his parents, his coach, and his teammates, and himself in his head, he's not going to accomplish anything. Yeah. So that what it does is says, okay, let's cheer the team on. And when that game is over, don't critique the play of your son. Number one, he's already doing it. His coach is already doing it. His teammates are already doing it. Now you're doing it. So now those 4 components come into play after the game as well. What you should do is just say, hey, you know what? You guys played really hard. You didn't win, but I'm proud of your effort that you put forth. Now he's going to go like, thank you. Now he's going to work harder, as opposed to you picking apart every part of every game. Why didn't you shoot more? You played terrible defense. Well, that's not helping build confidence.
Yeah. Wow.
Absolutely. What I love about the work that you do is that this is beyond basketball. This is beyond just focusing on this one thing. This is the life skill. This is the life school. These are the qualities that we want to bring forth in life, in every aspect of our life, so that we can have thriving relationships and thriving future for ourselves. So this is really the distinction and the message that I want to send through this talk, because we're here on a networking call. We're introducing you to our network, and we're inviting people to connect with you, because you're open to connecting with people who are not only in basketball world, right? And this is the question is that I'm sending out there. You can answer, but I already know where you're going to go with your answer. Is how can we contribute to this message with our business? How can our business be beyond the borders of what we are providing with the service that we bring here? Because so many entrepreneurs are so narrowly focused. I serve these kind of people, and this is my group of people. How do we serve humanity? How do we show for each other? Because I guarantee you that when you consider life in that way, your business is going to thrive as a result.
Yeah.
So
I think what the first thing you mentioned is I think it's you have to look beyond what somebody does, because if I say, oh, I'm a youth leadership and empowerment coach, okay, youth leadership empowerment, that's it. I work with kids. Kids have parents. Parents have businesses. So you have to look at every aspect of what somebody does, because you just never know. Because somebody reminded me, because I wasn't using LinkedIn a lot, and I was like, well, y'all work with kids. He goes, well, kids have parents. Parents have businesses. I'm like, yeah. So that was a learning experience for me. And I say that because I always tell people I have no ego to bruise. You have a lot of people, like you said, Katharina, people have their little blinders on. And I take my blinders off. And I look at every opportunity. And that's why we're sitting here talking, because
indeed,
I took my blinders off and there's an opportunity. But back to your question, I think we have to look, got to look below the surface of every individual. And the networking part is you have to ask questions, because I don't know who oh, I work with kids. Well, I work with a kid that probably needs some work. And it actually, perfect example, there's a nonprofit that another youth sports nonprofit work was called Thriving Athletes. Well, one of the things they do is they provide scholarship money for both athletes and non-athletes. Well, I started networking, collaborating with them. Well, that's led to now I'm working with them more in depth. Now their students that are applying for these colleges are now taking my courses from my Sea of Success Academy to help their personal growth and development skills, because now they get to put that on their college applications, that I've taken a course to improve my communication, my leadership, and my responsibility in so many different things. I would have never known that had I not gone a little deeper. I was just thinking about scholarship money, athletes, and now it goes to my business, directly impacts these young people. Now they're benefiting and I'm benefiting, and the parents are as well.
Wow. Exactly. You have to dig deeper than just the surface level. If we wanted to follow a certain pattern or a formula and how to create these networking meetings, these conversations would have never unfolded, the conversations like this one. And now next time when you're on a call with us in a group call and you only have 2 minutes to tell your story, I just want people to consider all of this that you have. This is a master class here, right?
Yes, yeah.
Thank you so much. It's an absolute privilege every single time talking with you, because you uplift one's spirit. Even when that spirit is uplifted, you uplift it even higher. I can just imagine what you do with children, how they feel when they are with you in the room and on the court. Patrick, I'll give you the opportunity to have your closing questions or words.
Thank you. Thank you. And speaking with you today, I just made an observation of how you respond to life. You said you didn't have your biological father, but you were able to learn from another man who stepped in and filled that role. Where other children will just go on and become a statistic. There are all sorts of stats about how children turn out who don't have the guidance of a father. But you flipped that, and you turned that situation into the JLT Fieldhouse. You said you didn't have any children. Instead of feeling sorry for yourself, you saw that as an opportunity. It frees you up to now serve more children. So yeah. And then when COVID struck, you took an opportunity there to start all these other programs. So I love how you respond to life. You're not playing the victim, like you practice that. You see opportunity. You find. In fact, I remember the very first day we spoke on a Zoom call, when I was explaining RIMPAGE, I saw your eyes get real big. It's almost like you have this antenna for opportunity, where other people see things are going down, you see opportunity. And I love how you execute on it and how you jump on it. My final question to you would be, in all the years of working with children and giving them guidance, you mentioned that you're learning too. What have you learned? How have you grown as a person? What are some of the lessons you learned working with children?
And Antwaun, can you do it in 4 minutes, please?
I can do it in 2. I'm going to do it in 2. I'm going to do it in 2. Really, the key is, what I've learned is that kids want to be cared for, but they want to be listened to. So I dropped my guard and I opened myself up to just that. And then, so they've truly laid a foundation for how our relationship goes. I did it in 20 seconds.
Oh, you did it in 20 seconds? Absolutely.
It really is. To me, it's simple. Yeah, it is that.
I love that you're keeping it simple. I love your attitude towards life, towards people, towards children. It is a beautiful example of how a human life can develop, and I look forward to hearing and seeing your story develop into what kind of a human being that I get to call friend. I am so grateful. We're both so grateful that you were here, shared this moment with us here, and we invite you to stay in touch always with us in these networking meetings, because you're an asset in our network, and just gratitude for you, appreciation of what you are doing, and an invitation to everyone else to pay attention and to know that inside you always have access to the same choices that Antwaun had. So which way you go in life, victim or a victor? And I think that we will leave you with that question. Thank you. And if you expected anything else, tell us in the comments. In what ways did this conversation surprise you? Thank you both so much. And wonderful weekend to you and to everyone who is watching us. See you next time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.